And we are live.
And I'm actually recording. It's counting down, so I know it's working.
You're listening to the Verhoeven Effect, where we reclaim euthanasia from the entropy of our lives. I'm Conlon,
And I'm Nathan.
and we're back for season 2 of the Verhoeven Effect, and this is going to get weird because I'm going to be referring to the show itself as season 2, but then there's season 2s within it and a season 1 within it. So
Yeah.
we'll see if my clerical skills can get through this.
Yeah, there's no spell check on those potential errors.
And as never before, we start with the Blacklist.
Yeah.
Season 1, Episode 1. Merely named Pilot. Original air date September 23rd, 2013, NBC Monday. Which I think I wonder, because I think that used to be the 24 air date. And I kind of get a lot of 24 vibes off this, but we'll get into that later. This is probably the longest show description I've ever read on the show. So here we go. Ex-government agent and one of the FBI's most wanted fugitives, Raymond Red Reddington, James Spader, mysteriously turns himself in to the FBI and offers to give up everyone he has ever worked with, including a long-thought dead terrorist, but under one condition. He'll only talk to newly minted female FBI profiler Elizabeth Keene, Megan Boone, with whom he seemingly has no connection. For Liz, it's going to be one hell of a first day on the job, and what follows is a twisting series of events as the race to stop a terrorist begins. Showrunner John Bokenkamp, and I wrote here possibly I think it's John Bokenkamp, and I think there's Joe Eisendrath, maybe.
Okay.
Written by John Bokenkamp. Directed by Joe Carnahan. Do you know who Joe Carnahan is?
That sounds familiar.
What
did he do?
He's kind of like I'll run through it. He's kind of like known as kind of a Tarantino-esque guy. Like he was clearly trying to be Tarantino. I like his stuff, but sometimes he tries too hard. But I remember his first movies like Blood, Guts, Bullets, and Octane.
Okay.
He directed like a couple of shorts for that weird BMW TV series or director series with like Clive Owen as the driver.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
Like Ridley Scott did an episode. He did Narc. I think that was kind of his first like major release, and then he ended up doing like the A-Team movie.
Okay.
And he also did like The Gray.
Okay.
That's the one with Liam Neeson where he's like fighting the wolves and stuff.
Yeah.
I hear good things. I never actually watched it, but
It's not bad.
he also did things like Stretch, which is like a weird action comedy that I don't think actually made it to theaters, but it was like a totally fine movie. It was fun. Yeah, he's kind of a big action guy.
Looks like he was a producer on The Fourth Kind, which is a really dumb movie that I like. About aliens.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of effective, but also completely. It's effective if you suspend the disbelief that, like, oh yeah, none of this ever really happened, but it's presented as if it's a documentary within a movie.
Yeah.
Like, did this happen? So then you find out, no, absolutely not. It's like, oh, okay, because if this really happened, there's very good evidence that aliens exist. The way they did it was like kind of scary and fun, though.
Almost like found footage.
Yeah, found footage within a movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a movie of the documentary or found footage or whatever is about the people in the movie, but they're played by totally different actors, so it makes you think like, oh, wait a minute, is this a documentary that they? But then you find out it's not true, but it's kind of fun anyway.
And like I didn't look up any history about the show. I'm just kind of going off of things like I kind of like vaguely know about the show. So like my history with the show, like I haven't seen any episodes until this one. But like the kind of like the rep I remember on it is that NBC, like since they had lost like Friends and Seinfeld, had comically mismanaged all their television.
Okay.
They went from being like the number one network for like almost a decade to like last place for like the next like almost 2 decades. And I remember the Blacklist kind of being like their only like hit amongst it. Like, I mean, they were like, they had canceled like Law and Order in there somewhere. I mean, SVU was still around, but they had like multiple Law and Order shows. But now they have multiple Law and Order shows again. But this show is still around in its 9th season. So,
okay. This is one of those shows I've heard about, and everyone tells me to watch. Like, oh, you should watch this. You'd like it. Like, yeah, okay. And I just never got around to it.
Yeah.
No reason. It's just that's kind of the like our thing. It's like, yeah, we don't watch network TV because we never get around to it because we're building models or doing other things.
So yeah, I just like never got around to it, but like I kind of heard this was like NBC's kind of like lone show. I mean, they have like their staples like SNL and stuff like that, but that's just kind of there. They had a hard time creating new stuff forever.
They don't have any more must-see TV.
I believe they do all the Chicago series. So they do like Chicago Fire, Chicago Police, and like Chicago Med, and then they all intertwine. They all have their own MCU universe.
Yeah, they do like all the they used to call those police procedurals. Now I call them like massive multi-character municipal dramas or something, weird like that. It's like, they're covering all the bases.
Well, I remember one time they because I think it was NBC had Homicide, and they also had Law and Order, and they'd have like a few crossovers.
Yeah.
But also like
Life on the Streets.
Yeah.
Characters would. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And I can't remember that one guy's name. He's kind of like the beatnik cop guy who's like a famous comedian, and he has like the most. Like special guest appearances in other TV shows as that same. Yes. Yeah. And so he was in Homicide, and he's also in various Law and Orders, and he's also, and I think he ended up on Law and Order SVU like as a main character later on, and he was in an episode of the X-Files. He's like all over the place as that character.
He's huge into conspiracy theories. I mean, I think it's fun. I've heard him interviewed about it. He's not like dark, but he's like really into all that stuff. He's like,
he likes to explore the possibilities, not necessarily attribute like this is how you should live your life based on conspiracies.
No, he just thinks it's fun. Kind of like Dan Aykroyd in The Occult. Like, he's deep into the occult, but it's fun.
Yeah.
Because he's having a good time. It's not like, oh, you need to worship Satan. Yeah, it's like, whoa, Dan, what are you doing? But yeah.
But anyways, yeah, so we get in the Blacklist. The first note I have is...
Oh, wait, I had an idea. Talking about the massive engagement municipal shows. I always want to do a show called IRS. Because why not? Like you have all different characters, like a libertarian IRS agent who's really against this, and then the crusader who really believes people should pay their taxes. But it's all just about like IRS people running different crooks down, different like people scamming the IRS, but you have different characters, like people that hate the IRS and people that work in it that love it. And then I found out like the guy who wrote The Infinite Jest wrote a book called The Pale King, which was pretty much like that. It's like, well, that idea is taken. That's only one of the most famous writers, in America. So,
well, I like the what was that Amazon show they did with the head like Julia Roberts in it?
Oh,
Homecoming, yeah, like that the IRS guy in that was great.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Because you think oh man, he's solving the crime, he's gonna figure it, and they basically just towards the end is like, you're just a powerless pawn, you don't mean anything. And it's like, yeah, that's how the IRS works.
Yep.
Like if you're powerful, they're meaningless. I thought you were gonna go with something where it's like, it was going to be like the IRS show is going to be investigating all the weird happenstances of all the other shows on the network. It's like, look at this damages bill we got from the New York PD. Like, what's going on?
That would be interesting too. Clerks, not the kind you're thinking. No, but it's like I said, I always kick that idea around. It's like, IRS is technically law enforcement, but they've never had a show.
Yeah.
and and I was like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if we had like different points of view, and it was IRS characters, and some of them hated the job, some of them loved it. And then I found out, oh yeah, David Foster Wallace already covered that before he killed himself. Like, okay, well, never mind. Not going to follow up on David Foster Wallace, so much for that
I don't know.
idea.
I never heard of it, so there's still space for it. It's not committed to film yet, so anything,
Yeah.
is if it's not committed to film, it's not an original idea.
Some concepts you can cover, but some things that are like well known. That's I don't know. The book was never completed. It was published as an incompleted manuscript that people edited because he killed himself before it came out. But it was very interesting to read, and I didn't know about. I thought about the IRS thing long before that, and I didn't know about this. And then I read this, and I was like, oh man, this guy already had this idea. Because that's essentially what it was. But it wasn't a complete idea. It was never like edited and fleshed out. It was just a bunch of random characters, but very well written.
See, you shouldn't not do it because it's somebody else already like attempted it. You shouldn't not do it because the person who attempted it killed themselves.
It's a warning. It's like the it's like some evil tome or book. It's like, no, don't attempt to complete the work because it will consume you too. And it's just this IRS script gets passed around the country, and everyone who tries to do it dies. From complete failures to the most successful authors in America. It's like no one can touch it because tax collection is evil or good. It's something so good that it makes you crazy instead of something so evil it makes you crazy. Anyway, the Blacklist.
Yeah. So mysterious guys in front of a mysterious building. It's Raymond Reddington. He takes off. He walks into the building. It's an FBI building. He takes off his hat and coat in front of a seal, and then he talks to a lady and says his name to her, and then alarms start going off, and he's surrendering on the top of the seal to the FBI. And there's just guns on balconies, guns all over the place. This show, maybe I'll put this up front rather than bookending it, but this show is very fun, irresponsible depiction of the FBI.
Yeah, oh yeah. It's super government. This is like the super competent government that every conspiracy theorist thinks exists, and that everyone who's afraid and wants the government to protect them thinks exists, but does not exist.
Well, actually, they aren't. That's the thing, is they're not competent. It's the thing is, it seems like all these organizations are run by bullies who are just too powerful to kick out, so nothing ever changes, and so they're just not good at their jobs. But because they're stern and people.
When I say super competent, I mean they have infinite resources.
Oh yeah.
Abilities, and when the lens is on you, or when you put the lens on you, it's hopeless to protect yourself from it. That's what I don't mean. They're actually good at what they do. They're just good at projecting violence and menace. But in the real world, it's none of those things.
Yeah,
the real world's too complicated. It's an asshole all the time.
It's the FBI of unlimited resources.
Yeah, it's kind of like the X-Files FBI, where it's
well, I mean, they had limitations. I mean, that was the whole X-Files division, was that they had two agents and no support.
Yeah, but it was always wheels within wheels, though.
Yeah,
the FBI had this tier, but then you have the government up here and mysterious groups, and there was always someone pulling the strings.
I have a lot of notes on this because a lot of stuff happens in this show. So
go ahead.
I mean, it's a pilot, so they got to get the ideas across, and so
yeah.
So you find out that Red that's his nickname. He is one of the most wanted criminals. He's on the FBI most wanted list. He was apparently a promising naval officer, but then just disappeared and then shows up selling out America all over the world.
Yeah.
They nicknamed him the concierge of crime. Red gets chipped. They put a tracker, a subdermal tracker in him. And then he gets
from New York.
Well, it's not an explosive, but it's just, and he gives up a guy who's Ranko Zamani, and it's the guy that Ray wants to go down, or Red. I think I wrote Ray a lot here, but anyways, I mean either works. But And then they just start going through files, and Zamani was presumed dead, but now he's alive. And there's like just quick Google searches, like, oh, guess we screwed up. I think I wrote somewhere where it's basically like Red is sort of like, he's both like an unreliable narrator, but also the source of all relevant information.
Yeah, he's the unreliable, omniscient narrator.
And of course, Red's played by James Spader, and of course he's great because he's just smarmy.
Yeah,
just a fun, smarmy douchebag. So,
yeah, he's not someone you like, but
yeah,
he's scary.
But he's like the only fun one. Like all the FBI guys are too serious, and he's like having fun with it. And they're like, "But people's lives are on the line. Why are you having fun?" It's like, well, what's the point then?
Yeah.
Getting very. I mean, I also get to this sometime, but I get very kind of Hannibal Lecter vibes off the Red character.
Yeah. It's kind of a puppet master who lets everyone know that he's the puppet master. It's like it's not subtle. It's like, it's just, can I figure out how he did this?
And then he gives them a bunch of information, but then at some point he gives like an ultimatum, and he says that he'll only talk to one agent, Agent Elizabeth Keene. And we cut to like her waking up late for her first day at being an FBI agent. And it's kind of this comical 180 swing. It doesn't make any sense, and it's like this. She seems to have a good relationship with her husband. And then, like, she walks out the door.
Well, let me say, the only thing I ever figured out in this show, because I didn't figure a lot out because it moved too fast and didn't have enough information, but I was like, her husband's a bad guy. I don't know why I thought that, because they get along too much. Like, take care of it, honey. Yeah, I got this, honey. Don't worry. Yeah, our adoption thing, I'm going to take care of that. Don't worry. Be an FBI agent. And it's like, this guy's going to turn out to be a bad guy. Only that, and because Redding wanted to talk to her immediately. It's like, oh, he knows a bunch of stuff about her, and it's going to develop.
So yeah, the FBI.
I don't know if he's a bad guy or he's just not who he says he is. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a good cliffhanger, I guess.
Yeah,
it's like pretty much
the I figured out.
The only like obviously good person in the show is also a bad person.
Deceptive.
Yeah. So the FBI surround her house and take her to work, but it's like, they comically just like cars rush in from all over the place and surround
the helicopter.
Yeah. Gotta have that. And then she's interviewed by Harold Cooper, who's the assistant director of counterterrorism. And he kind of gets keen to like profile herself.
Yeah. To figure out why Reddington wants to talk to her. There's a purpose behind it, which I liked.
Yeah.
And then the profile she gives is like self-deprecating. Yeah, my coworkers think I'm a bitch, and I'm insecure.
And I'm a narcissist.
I'm a narcissist, and I have a horrible childhood. And
which is, it's like this fun moment. It's like, why is she an FBI agent?
Yeah. She used to be an actress. Oh.
But at the end of the episode, it's like, why are any of these people FBI agents? But that's, I don't know. See, this would be like a negative on the show if the show like had any pretense of being like realistic, but it absolutely does not do that, and it lets you know that right away, and it's that way throughout the entire show, so it's consistent, so it's fine that it's crazy.
Yeah, I found myself like not minding all this madness. It's like, oh well, yeah, this is the show. I've got to accept this or just turn it off. So I'm gonna just keep watching it.
So they take her to a secret bureau black site that's a repurposed post office that they call the post office. So this is our nice secret, like investigation lab for the FBI. And Red is held in a glass chamber where like the room moves, not Red. The room moves around him.
It's like some kind of vault that looks like it's from a science fiction show. Like a lot of glass and metal just articulating around in a strange way.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like something that should like hold a mutant in some X-Men movie. And it makes no sense like how it operates. It just looks cool. It's like, well, that's fine. Yeah. So, yeah. And then he tells Keen that Zamani's going to abduct some general's daughter. And then Red got Zamani into the country to allow him to do this. Yeah. This is also where like he gives a lie. He says everything about me is a lie. So which is the truth. Yeah. And it's contradictory and fun. So yeah, that's the character. Then we find out something like Keen's dad was a criminal, but it didn't show up on her FBI background check. So again, like not looking good for the FBI and its consistency.
You're going to stop this criminal mastermind, but your own employees, you can't vet them with public database searches. Okay.
And I put almost immediately. I just wrote, "Is Red Keen's dad?" Because that seems where this is going. But I don't know. Because like in the beginning where they're like profiling Red, they talk about how he just abandoned his family, and so it's like, well, who are the abandoned family? But but Keen doesn't have the same name. But then we find out like her mom died and she was adopted or something or whatever.
I mean it's twist around into some crazy like only happens in movies thing. But
Keen goes after this general's kids. Beth is the kid's name, gets her away from danger, but it's like maybe. And then it seems like I wrote down, why does a 4-star general have like an 8-year-old daughter?
It's usually don't get into your 40s and they put that 4th star on you, usually a lot older than that.
And then like Hazmat is rerouting people, and it just, well, this is obviously going to be an ambush. So the convoy gets ambushed by the Hazmat team. They're dumping fuel just all over the place. Yeah. It's pretty cool, but it doesn't make a whole lot. I mean, I guess it creates danger for them to get away.
It's like, oh, these are scary people. They're driving around with a truck just filled with gas containers or whatever.
Yeah, they run into the car and like knock it over, and it's like turned on its side, at least one of the cars, and they kind of put the kid in and they block the way. They're dumping fuel over the place. They take the kid like on the river, like they have boats down below that they escape to. It's kind of this fun little moment where like one of the like attackers is like kind of like bargaining with her because she like is like just shooting people that come near the car, and then he's like, hey, I'll give you this gas mask so we can take the kid, and she basically kind of relinquishes the kid and assumes that they'll be able to get her later, and like you see the hand like counting down before he drops in like the tear gas or whatever. But then he like goes to shoot her, and then like somebody shoots that guy, but
the FBI agent who's like the guy in charge of the Reddington investigation. Yeah. He also jumps off the bridge too to catch guys in boats or avoid an explosion. I don't know which.
This is a pretty big action like moment for a television series.
Yeah, so. They spent their money, and this show is violent too. It is not like passively violent; it's actively violent in crazy ways you don't usually see on TV.
Yeah.
But this is just spending the money on the pilot too.
Yeah. And I also wrote down like I think they go back to interview Red, and then Keen has a scar on her wrist that she talks about, which you don't know if that's like self-harm or I think they said it was a chemical burn or something.
Oh, mom's like the house was on fire.
Oh, okay.
Something with her mom, and I forget.
And this is why I wrote like very Clarice and Lecter vibes going on here. So that's where I picked up on like, I think that's what they want to go for. It's like, hey, what if Hannibal Lecter and Clarice were solving crimes together?
Yeah.
I mean, they kind of were, but.
Well, sort of. We don't know if Reddington's just a complete psychopath or there's something else.
And you have Red tears apart the FBI's intel, or like they have pictures and like, they have little like arrows pointing at the guy that they think's like the most important guy, and he's just grabbing it. It's like, no, it's that guy in the background you want to pay attention to. And it's like every photo. It's like, once again, the FBI look like morons, but you gotta give a lot of power to this character. So it's a fun thing. So
Yeah, because he's basically holding them hostage as he's a prisoner.
Yeah.
He's like using his knowledge as that's his only tool.
And apparently, like Zamani wants revenge for his family dying from the general bombing a chemical plant, a chemical weapons plant in his country, and it killed his family.
Yeah.
But it's like, why was the country building chemical weapons? And it was probably Zamani building it. And why did he have his family close to? Anyways.
Yeah, there's all kinds of questions with that.
But you know, it's you're in halfway through the episode. You know to just wash that away. It's like, don't worry about it.
And he has a disease too. He has Knifus syndrome, which is killing him.
Yeah.
Because that's the Zamati character is like, oh, that makes him more dangerous because he's dying. It's like he doesn't have as much to lose, and which he did have like some good makeup effects. It's like, oh, he has some horrible disease.
Yeah.
And that is a real disease, by the way.
It looks like something sci-fi is happening to him.
Yeah, but it's real. It's terrible. It just destroys your liver. But it doesn't exist in Serbia. It's more in Asia. You get that. But I looked it up because I was like, is that real or not? And what does it mean?
Red gets put on the team as like a biological terrorist attack looms. And they have Red staying in some classy hotel, which I don't necessarily get this, but it was just kind of like, it's like, well, who's the FBI? Is like Kessler or something like that, or is it Sessler? I have it written somewhere. But yeah, like that guy's just, it's Wrestler. Is it Wrestler or Riesler? Agent Wrestler. Ressler. Wrestler is really perturbed that this guy gets basically treated like a king, even though he's like the FBI's most wanted. So, and then the FBI find the chemist lab, this is the guy who's going to be building the biological bomb that they're going to set off in DC or something. Yeah, DC.
Yeah, Washington Zoo.
And then so they catch that guy, but then they have some intel that like the bomb's built anyway. And then Keen gets home and her husband is beat up and tied to a chair. Well, there's like, congratulations, it's a chair, it's a girl, and there's balloons all over the place. And so it's a nice, it's a fun reveal. And the guy's just like blood all over the place, like blood's pouring into his eyeball, or it's that kind of thing. It's like, oh wow, this is pretty violent. And then Zamani's there, and then Zamani's trying to interrogate Keen, and then Zamani just like stabbed the husband a bunch, and then
he stabbed him in the leg first.
Yeah,
in the top of the leg to be like, to basically say, you're going to answer my questions. And then once she convinces him that she doesn't know anything beyond a certain level, he's like, okay, now you've got a choice: stop me or save him, and stabs him in the chest, like in the abdomen.
Yeah, and
then leaves, and she's trying to stop her husband from bleeding to death.
Yeah, and call him.
He doesn't die.
No.
But then comes like the coolest part in the show, where one of the things I wasn't expecting, where Keen goes to ask Redding, like, what the hell's going on? Why is this guy after my husband? And he kind of hem-haws around. And then she stabs him in the neck with a pin. It's like, I just hit your carotid artery. You've got about a minute until you pass out. If I pull it out, you're going to bleed out on the floor. Now tell me what I want to know. It's like, oh, shit, I didn't see this.
Yeah.
But I think that's why he was put in the hotel room. I think that was to propel that element of the story along. Because she couldn't do that in his weird sci-fi cage, because there wouldn't be like sharp objects laying around.
I mean, it's a pen,
Yeah.
I mean, they specifically showed it, like she didn't have like the ballpoint sticking out. It was just kind of the hollow blunt end. She just stabs it through his neck.
It's a hell of a lot of strength and accuracy to do that. But,
it's fine. Yeah, it's fine. I mean, it was totally surprised. Came out of nowhere. And it was fun how calm he still was. It's like, all right, okay. Yeah, I wrote that. Yeah, he says, there's a line where he says like the truth about your husband or whatever, and I think that's somewhere along the line when she stabs him. And then Red is in the hospital and escapes, because of course. And Keen shows up to walk in there. He's like, "Hey, you're on thin ice already." So they know she stabbed him.
I had cameras all over the hotel. Yeah.
And then they're basically
Most
looking
wanted
the
guy
other
in the
way.
world. Let's take him to any random hospital. Nothing could happen. Hospitals are really secure, by the way.
And then Red meets with Zamani, and then Keen's kind of on the phone with Red, and this is where she figures out that the DC zoo is a target because he was some sort of Eastern Orthodox Catholic that wouldn't have tattoos, but he had some mark on his hand, and that's where they figured out
which was interestingly the umbrella logo from
Resident
Evil, but it was also the stamp the park was putting on people that they paid to get in. So I was like, oh, interesting. Because he was going to let off a bioweapon, and it's like, oh, okay. Have a little fun.
Yeah, so Keen goes to the zoo, and she finds Beth on a bench, and I immediately she has a backpack on, so I was there's a bomb in the backpack, but then she's more like she's the bomb. It's like a combination of the backpack and then some stuff she's wrapped in.
The biological agent is wrapped around her body in some kind of casement, and the detonator and the explosions are in the back. Because we don't know anything about what this weapon is or what it does.
The guy that takes away, he's more interested in the chemical stuff, right? Because
he wants the bomb component. The Ukrainian guy.
And then Red put the chip on Zamani, so you have wrestlers chasing around Zamani, and he doesn't know it. And then Zamani goes to the roof somewhere to watch the bomb go off, and then jump to his death. And then he turns around and kind of make it look. He says something that makes it look like he's going to set the bomb off manually, but then it's just the medicine case, and it's it's just. I mean, that's convenient, but whatever, it's fine. The show is
And then wrestler shoots him, and he just falls to his. Well, I don't know. He falls to his death.
Yeah, and then he finds
pretty cool fall scene. Yeah.
And then the wrestler finds the chip in the pill case. Yeah. And then some Russian guy shows up to disarm the bomb. He's an associate of Red. The bomb is disarmed. The guy runs off with the bomb. And then I think Red shows up and he says, "We're going to make a great team." And then
we need the bomb. You just let the guy go with the bomb. Oh, he's fascinated by those things.
Yeah.
Just let him go.
That's his payment. It's you're not going to get any cheap. And then he says, "This is fun. Let's do it again," to all the FBI agents. And then I think they're doing an interview, and then they kind of turn off everything, all the recording stuff and the stenographer, and it's this is where basically explain the whole premise of the show of what the blacklist is, and it's like a deep state of criminals and terrorists and spies that only Red knows about because he's been cultivating them for the last 20 years and working with them. So
it's like the knock list for criminals.
Yeah, and it's just this is apparently his plan all along, was to get deep inside all these criminal organizations to eventually bring them all down. But
we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. Because it seemed when Zamani and him are talking, they seemed friendly towards each other. It's it's hey, my old friend. And then we cut back to Keen's apartment, and she's cleaning the blood off the floor of her home, and there's carpet, and she's just ripping up the carpet rather than cleaning it. And this is where she finds a hidden compartment with money and passports in it, and her husband is some sort of agent or not, or maybe whatever. Was that planted? Was it there all along? We have no idea.
I don't know what the inscription on the top of the wooden box she found under the floorboards was.
Yeah. The secret criminal deep state organization.
Yeah. I didn't look it up because I don't want to look. I don't look up anything up about the shows we're watching.
I want to be surprised as the first time we want to be the people that when they first watched it. So
because I see stuff like that and I'm like, oh wait, I can't, because then it's 10 years old, or the show's still ongoing, and it'll tell me, and then it'll ruin everything in the future.
But But yeah, this was a fun, exciting show. So.
Yeah, this is my Wednesday night watch now. 'Cause I watch. I don't watch these all in one day anymore because that's too. Sometimes I like my ideas run together. So
Yeah.
Wednesday night when Stacy's at work, I watch The Blacklist, and Thursday night I watched The Mentalist, and today I watched Miami Vice. So.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. Also, I'm looking forward because like I would say this was a good episode, but like on a technical level, there's a lot of just bad things and plot holes and stuff like that. But I'm fine with it. So I can't wait till we get to like a truly awful episode to compare it to things. Because I think this was a good, exciting opener. So I want to see. Yeah, I'm interested to see where it goes. So.
Yeah, and I'm glad it doesn't try to take itself too seriously. That makes it like, oh, okay.
So for our second show, we have The Mentalist, Season 2, Episode 1, Redemption. Original air date September 24th, 2009, CBS Thursday. So they switched nights. So, and Thursday is a big night for advertising because that's where you advertise for like movies and stuff coming out on Friday and all sorts of things. So this, so CBS had a lot of faith in the show to put on Thursdays. Now it might have been
a totally revamped intro and everything.
Yeah. Now this might have been one of their later shows. Like I don't know, it's with like CSI or one of their NCIS is on first, but like I think this is like they're more like kind of like later in the night show, so it's kind of meant to like be more adult oriented, I guess.
Yeah.
Where it's like CSI or whatever was going on at the time, or NCIS was more family approachable. So it's like Mentalist is on, put the kids away, put the kids to bed. While the unit tackles a murder case involving a woman who stole $1 million from her employer, Patrick finds out that they have been removed from the Red John case. Showrunner Bruno Heller, written by Bruno Heller, directed by Chris Long. This is the same team from the season finale, both writer and director. So, they just rolled into here. We have a dead body, Ivor Rasmussen. This isn't really important. This is kind of just like a quick reintroduction of like what the series is, but like we're just doing it in the opening sequence, so none of this really matters. But it's just another one, a lot like the original pilot. You have him solve a crime within like the opening segment of the show to show like his skills. So that's what they're doing here. They're in like a mall or something.
Yeah.
Jane and Lisbon are on the scene. There's a group of witnesses / suspects. We have Mandy Schultz, who's the Karen of the group.
Yeah.
This is before that was a thing. Jane does some weird dance thing with Mandy, and the group follows an intrigue as he's trying to get like her to like they're looking for the murder weapon, and it's like some like glass thing is the murder.
Heavy crystal.
Okay.
Yeah, glass. It's like something. Yeah, you could beat someone's head in with that, which is what happened.
And then you find out that Neil did it, who's just some kind of worker there. And then like what Jane was doing is like watching him and then dancing with Mandy to like really get the clues, because that guy doesn't think he's giving away the clues, but he is. And then there's like a wacky foot chase that just leads into gunshots that are off screen. It's like, well, that kind of got serious quickly.
Yeah, and Jane does just like raises his eyebrows and walks the other direction. Part of that.
And then we cut to like the new opening credit graphics, so we don't have that like explanation of the Mentalist. It's just kind of like these kind of stylish graphics that are kind of simplistic, but it's like the Mentalist and has like the Mentalist sting up front. So
yeah.
And then we come back. We have a meeting with Virgil, the director of the CBI, and he's talking about property damages and Jane getting too wild about chasing Red John clues down. And this is where we have the handoff to Agent Bosco, who's taking over the Red John case, and Jane and the team are pissed that they're not working on it. And that's actually kind of like the weird like crux of the episode. It's not really about solving the murder. It's about Jane versus Agent Bosco.
Yeah. Which is fun because they're both good actors.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, this is because Bosco sounds like a New York cop. in California for some reason, but
Yeah.
he just kind of comes across as that kind of guy.
Yeah. And I know that guy from Oz. So
Yeah, it was kind of hard for me to like get out of that Oz frame. It's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, this guy. Oh yeah, but he's doing it different.
But he was like a warden in Oz. He wasn't a inmate. So
No, but he was a corrupt, one of the corrupt guards, I think, or head of the guard.
No, he was like the warden or what. He was like,
oh, I thought he was like the captain of the guards or something. Like,
no,
I know he wore a suit, but
like in the Oz show, he's like the guy that comes up with the open concept of Oz to try to basically keep like crime within the prison down by having like not just locking people away all the time, but having more of an open concept. But then you just end up getting like, violent crime anyways. But I think like technically throughout the series, like he was correct in his assessment, but because the crimes that happened within the prison were so spectacular, people assumed it was a failure when it actually wasn't.
Yeah.
Jane's like packing up his stuff because he's not in the Red John case anymore, and he says, "Well, frankly, if I can't use this job as some sort of personal revenge, there's nothing for me." And they have more some between Lisbon and him, and she says to him like, "You can go back to being a full-time fraud, and then we'll do our useless jobs in peace." Some good dialogue going back here.
Yeah, that was fun.
And then the team just immediately catch a case, and then that kind of like puts everybody back together. This we have the first weird thing. Like they get in the car, and then for some reason Van Pelt like doesn't know how to drive a car. And there's a lot of just
that was weird.
Everything with Van Pelt,
because she like pressed buttons and sirens started going off.
Yeah.
She knows how to drive a police car.
Well, also this whole episode is like everybody is just like beating down on Van Pelt, like just like harassing her, like, and for some reason she like can't do anything right except she does one thing right, and it's like what did this actress do to the show? Because we have this every once in a while where just Van Pelt is just completely useless in an episode and it makes her look bad, and they never like really redeem her. She's just like less useless in other episodes, so it's very weird. Because it's like by this time it's like, she's a seasoned part of the team, like they should be able to work together well, and they just kind of outcast her in a weird way. I don't know what the hell that's about, but
yeah,
maybe I'm picking up on too much. I don't know, or maybe I just thought it'd be funny. It's like Van Pelt doesn't have a lot to do this episode. Let's create some drama within this, and they just whip that stuff out on the day or something. Yeah, so they go to this like hotel, or no, it's an apartment or whatever. There's a dead woman, but she has a fake ID, so they just call her Jane Doe for now. The place is tossed because somebody is looking for something, and then they find out it's Monica Dunninger because they picked that out from a picture in a Google search that she stole like $1 million.
Yeah.
So that's a fun introduction of Google exists in this universe now. Yeah, the team leave Jane because he's being like extra. He's just being really. He's just being extra. I don't know, obtuse or whatever. He's just being extra difficult.
Yeah.
But then like they leave, but then Cho's like, they specifically took 2 cars, so Cho comes up in the next car and he takes him along, because like. Jane picks up on something, so now he's looking around for a house that's for sale. And so they go around the corner, find a house for sale. And then there's like strawberries. There's like strawberries on the side of the road they're selling. So he gets strawberries for the team, and they meet the team up, and he gives them strawberries, kind of like a make good for the team. And it's like, I have no idea what significant. I didn't read anything into this. I don't know what significance I'm supposed to pick up on, but it's fresh
for red.
Yeah.
I thought for a second he was feeding Lisbon one, but that was just how the camera was shot.
Yeah.
I was like, what the hell's going? I was like, oh, she's eating it with her hand. I thought, because it looked like his arm was up and she was like, this is good. And I was like, what kind of weird stuff is this? But then it was like a weird
Yeah.
shot. Oh, okay. Because I had to stop, rewind. Like, what happened? Oh, nothing. Okay.
The team interview Monica's family, and the whole family seems sickly and unwell. Only one of them is like a cancer survivor, but they all seem just like they all seem sickly and unwell. The daughter really doesn't like her mom. They get clues into like the mom had an affair with this yoga instructor called Bodie Andrews.
Yeah. But you immediately want to see the hell beat out of it.
Yeah, because I had I had the subtitles turned on, so they spelled his name like it's not like Bodhi like a name, it's like Bodhi like Bodhisattva or whatever.
Yeah, so. It's kind of a weird like HI at the end.
And this also the first name comes up. He's like, "Do you know Miles Thorson?" And I thought I'd missed something, but no, it's an intentional misdirect by within the episode by Jane to everybody he interviews.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's also like a thing where it's like something where like Lisbon and Van Pelt are talking, and then like Van Pelt says something like, "Oh, I think I trust the family," and then Lisbon's like, "Just check their financials, you idiot."
Yeah.
I mean, she doesn't say that, but that's basically how it's delivered.
Right. Yeah, it's more Van Pelt. Like, she always has this weird place in the story. Like, if there's anything spiritual or emotional, she's like, "No, I think it's good. They're good." And she immediately gets slapped down by either Jane or someone with her. And then it turns out, oh, yeah, she's totally wrong.
Yeah.
So this TV show hates God.
Yeah. And naive people that believe in goodness. Even though we haven't discovered the dark secret of Van Pelt's past that would actually give us no reason why she's hopeful at all.
Yeah, it will be there eventually, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Something, or they'll just write her off the show in a weird way because everyone was pissed off at the actress and some backstory we don't know about. But I don't know. We'll find out.
I do know a thing, but so she's gonna be around for the seasons we're watching. So
okay,
I know
good.
that. So, I believe, I think she leaves in the 7th season, but that's the eighth season is weird because I think it was like it just magically happened. Like basically the series had canceled and it's like, we'll bring the show back for 8 episodes, and so a lot of the cast left.
Okay.
Or they didn't want to pay them or something.
Yeah, there's always something.
Well, there's always a thing. Like I always talk about, like a lot of television contracts are for 7 years, and so if you're ending your 8th season, then to pay those people beyond their contracts, it's usually like they have the leverage, and so you have to pay them more. And they're like, we can write you out of the show. Yes. Yeah, we have Cho and Rigsby are looking for the Bodhi guy, and then Cho says he was in a gang and that's why he was sent to juvie. But he doesn't necessarily elaborate that much, and you still don't know if this is just like a fun lie that Cho is hanging Rigsby on because he.
And what was the gang called? It had some weird name.
Oh yeah, I was like, I didn't write it down. I didn't think it was going to be important, but it was almost like it sounded almost like a dance troupe or something like that, like the Pearl Street Dancers or something like that.
Yeah, it was something weird.
And they're just kind of going around, and Bodhi sees the cops, and he immediately runs away. And then, like, while they're just having
Avon Park Playboys.
Okay, yeah, that's right, yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Like, while Cho and Rigsby are just casually having this conversation, they basically, like, somehow just, like, telepathically know that this guy's in this box without ever, like, pointing to each other and say he's in the box. They just, like, know he's in the box. So they point guns at the box and tell him to get out. It's kind of a fun. Cho and Rigsby detain him. Jane meets with Bosco, and then here's this is the fun scene between actors where like it's or Bosco asserts himself over Jane, and And like, Jane's trying to pull his tricks. So, Jane's smarter than everyone. And then Bosco kind of like flips it on him. And it's like, I know you're smarter than everyone, but I'm also smart. And he basically just tears Jane apart and says like who he is and all this stuff. And like, no one's ever really talked down to him like that before. But he does have this kind of like almost like empathetic moment where it's like, yeah, I know who Red John is. He murdered your wife and child. That's why you shouldn't be on this case.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's like, yeah, because Jane was like, well, I can give you my number and we can talk about it. And he's like, I'm about as likely to do that. He's like, I'm never going to talk to you about this case. He puts his hand on Jane's shoulder, and Jane immediately puts his hand on his shoulder. He's like, really? Is this what we're going to do? It's some moment like that, and they just kind of, float by. Like,
yeah. Yeah, it's kind of that bit's like a kind of, it's like this, it's almost like when the writers were writing the scene, they felt like this was too formulaic and they just kind of threw that in there to like point at it. It's like, all right, we know what we're doing, but we're having fun with it. Oops, where was I? Then they're like at some printing press. Well, I guess like it's a printing press. I thought it was like, at first it was like, okay, they're at a printing press, right? And then it's like a bank or something, but no, it's just a printing company.
Yeah, they're like an advertisement company that's doing ad print in their basement.
Yeah. Yeah. So Monica stole from this printing firm, which is apparently like a family like run business. They introduced Greg Humphrey, who was Monica's supervisor. He's just like a geeky, soft guy. And then we also find out Kessie, the daughter, is like mysteriously like getting money through the mail.
Yeah.
And that's Van Pelt picks up on that, so that's like her one win for the episode. She found the money trail. And then they're also interviewing Bodhi, and he's just a weird tool of a man. It's like the only way I can describe it is he has toxic positivity.
Yeah, it's strange. Like, am I supposed to like this guy or be afraid of him?
He's a positive, but it's like basically he's like telling people to like forgive themselves for all the bad things they do. So he's just like, it's okay to do bad things as long as you forgive yourself. It's like, well, there's no learning there.
Yeah. Yeah, do the bad things, but then learn to love yourself at the same time. Huh? That excuses almost anything, dude.
Yeah, it's that. Yeah, it's completely one-sided. There's no yin and yang there. That's just all one side.
That's all yin, no yang.
Van Pelt talks to Kessie, and Kessie's getting the money in the mail from her mom. It's like $5,000 every month. I might be confusing with another show. Is this where like somebody says like it's $5,000? What was I supposed to do? Give it to the cops? And they're like, yes, you were.
No, that's a show.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. It's the showism.
I wrote down that Jane assumes the killer's a man because he keeps referring to it in that gender. I noted it. It didn't. I mean, it ends up being a woman, but it doesn't really matter. But yeah, Jane breaks into the home for sale. We have here where Cho's kind of like playing in the gray with Jane. It's like, oh, here's something in the house, and then Jane breaks in, and it's like, oh. And usually like Cho's kind of the straightforward guy, so it's kind of interesting here where he's kind of like,
Oops.
because you know, it's usually, yeah, I mean, yeah, so Cho's just kind of having fun with this, and it kind of explains it like, yeah, nobody's getting hurt, so it's like, what's the problem? But also there's this whole Lisbon thing where it's like, we got to do these cases by the books, and none of like Jane's weird trickery that ends up winning the day. Like, we need to do this more by the book.
Yeah, we have to actually prosecute these people.
And then because Rigsby's not really down with the whole thing, Jane sends Rigsby to the library. Then a realtor shows up. And then like Cho's kind of disappointed because he like gave away his real name. He's like, yeah, we're just we're here on official police business. And he's like, damn, I gave him my name. He's like, I'll be all right. So I wonder if that'll come back. Then Rhonda, who's from The Office, who was like showing Jane and Lisbon around, she shows up, and basically that's what Jane was hoping on, that somebody's going to come here, trying to figure out who's it, Miles Thorson? Yeah, Miles Thorson is, and so she shows up. It's like, all right, yeah, and then Jane just basically explains the crime and what happens, and then Monica, the dead mom, like left evidence in the library book, or she had a library book, and then in a place was the evidence. It was basically like all the like accounting that was going on, and like a DVD that had a bunch of stuff on there. Well, actually, the DVD I guess just had the video of her like basically saying, "If I die, this is what happened," and that kind of gives that kind of gives catharsis to the daughter who hated her mom completely, and so so I just gave a moment for that character to cry and kind of like forgive her mom, I guess. That's also where you figure out like why the kid, he like magically got like the best treatment in the world for his cancer, and that was the trade-off. Like the mom didn't steal the money, she was looking for to pay for the cancer treatment by helping this lady rip off the company. Because like the money came from, because there's a picture and it's like that lady and like the other people holding a check that was supposed to go to like this like children's hospital. It was like $3 million, and so they stole $1 million off of it. But it was like that same children's hospital was where her son was treated, I believe.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, that's it. Yeah, they solve the crime. That's kind of just the end of the episode, and there's this little bit at the end where Jane is trying to con his way into like Bosco's access codes.
Yeah,
and that's sort of the cliffhanger. Is like, oh, Jane's playing with fire.
He's doing it again. Yeah, he was imitating Bosco's voice and saying, "Yeah, I think my password's been compromised." You know, it's like, how's he going to get away with that? Because when Bosco goes to log in, his password doesn't work.
Well,
I combed through the data.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, I took it multiple ways. At first, I thought he was just trying to get like the codes to like his house. But then
I thought he was trying to get like his file codes for his investigation.
Yeah, that makes more sense. That he's just going to back in his way through to the case files on a computer. But I thought there was something that made it sound like he was trying to get like the codes to his house, and he's just gonna like sneak into his house and steal it that way. Either way, it's weird and compromising. So
right, it's like, yeah, there's gonna be no consequences for this,
right? Yeah, this season it seems to have more colder tones to the cinematography.
Yeah,
and it's a bit sharper. So yeah, it's a different look. So where I thought like the first season almost had like this kind of like apocalyptic bleakness where it's like warm tones, but like it's just because a storm, like a mushroom cloud is on the rise, where here it's different. It's like the world's dead. It's cold.
Yeah. Yeah, and the writing seems a little snappier too. It's like it's kind of changed a little bit.
Yeah, it's a bit darker, but they still have their sense of humor because you have to like these characters. So, it was a good start to season 2 of
I liked it.
So,
enjoyed the episode.
Then we have our third show, Miami Vice, season 2, episode 1, The Prodigal Son. Original air date September 27th, 1985, NBC Friday. Crockett and Tubbs travel to New York to take down a powerful Colombian cartel.
Yeah.
Showrunner Michael Mann, written by Daniel Pine, directed by Paul Michael Glazer. I believe that is Starsky of Starsky and Hutch again.
Yeah.
And we're like it opens. This also is like I once we get out of these first 2 episodes, I'm wondering how the sort of cinematography of the show will change around, because I'm not sure if like this is a permanent change, or because I remember you were talking about like when they go to different places they change up the cinematography.
Yeah.
Because it seemed like also with the same way with the Mentalist, like this, like there's a lot more contrast in the cinematography and a lot more colder tones going on.
Well, what happened? This is the time when season 2 is when Michael Mann is like fully.
Yeah, he's fully taken over. Yeah.
and then they've invested in the show as a much more serious kind of consistently darker look. But what they've done is they've made like the Miami Vice like color pastiche or whatever. It's a lot more bold and in contrast to itself than it was I mean, if you watch the first season, any episode, and watch this just first episode of season 2, it's like, oh, this looks a lot different.
Yeah.
Because it's brighter and darker at the same time. Like the contrast.
Yeah, the contrast is up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when they get to New York, it kind of looks like, oh, this looks more like last season when they get to New York. But like these opening scenes, it looked like film technology had jumped farther than they expected or something. It almost like a completely different show. But
I'm willing to bet the New York stuff was probably all just second unit because, and this is this is also like the season when the quirky what do you call that, like guest actors are on a lot.
Oh yeah, there's a bunch of people in this episode.
Oh yeah, this one's crazy. I can't even keep track of them.
I should say this is Prodigal Son Part 1, where it's on Peacock. It's split into 2, but like on the Nathan said the DVDs is just 1 2-hour episode, but we're splitting it into 2 because it'll end up being 23 episodes. Because that's also Mentalist has 23 episodes, but Blacklist I think just has 22. But anyways, we're in Bogota with Tubbs and Tubbs and Crockett and some slimy businessman or CIA guy, I don't know, or DEA guy. DEA, okay. DEA, they're like stopped by some militia and forced into a burning village, and then there's somebody being tortured for info in a shed, and then Tubbs is like interrogating and attacking the captors.
This is him hooked up to a crank radio charger.
Yeah.
And they'll ask him questions in Spanish, and he'll say stuff back in Spanish, and they'll be like, and he starts screaming.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff in this episode that's very confusing. I couldn't piece it all back together. I really don't know what's going on. I just know drug gang equals bad. So
a lot of the scenes in Bogota were really artful. Like they're throwing elements in there of, it's almost like, I think Salvador came out around this time.
Yeah.
Because they did it. Because remember when the guy was walking the white horse through the woods as they were being taken to the village that was being burnt down and all the people were being killed?
Yeah.
It was like, oh yeah, did they lift that from Salvador? Like it's like there is weird stuff like that in the first part of this episode. They definitely have a lot more money.
Yeah.
So they got guys running around shooting people.
We get back to Miami, and they got some information. I'm not really sure. And there's like a plane in the swamps that has like drugs in it, and then Vice and SWAT are like sitting on it. And then there's this big swamp shootout.
Yeah, crazy swamp shootout.
Tubbs has some big handgun that he doesn't have for the rest of the episode. I don't know what that was.
It was weird. Usually he's using his little 38 or sawn-off shotgun.
This is like he had Crockett had the M16, and then Tubbs had some 45, but it was like had like an extended barrel on it. So
could be a 45 long slide. They make those are cool looking. They don't do anything, but they just look cool.
Yeah, I mean technically a longer barrel increases the velocity, but but only so much.
A subsonic 45.
Yeah, that's true.
Welcome to Gun Talk.
Well,
know things about guns.
Yeah. The cops kill everyone except for Luis Guzman. Very young Luis Guzman.
Yeah, very young Luis Guzman.
There's a DEA meetup or something, and there's like a gunfight happens off screen, and then Tubbs has his trusty 38 back, and then it's like the Colombians hit the place. Gina gets shot and she's like barely alive.
Yeah.
And then we cut to like Vice's waiting at the hospital. Gina is like out of surgery, but she's still in critical condition. And then apparently the DEA has been compromised by the cartel, but the breach doesn't go to Vice, so Vice kind of takes over the DEA case.
Yeah.
And then somewhere.
It's interesting how they characterize the breach, because also there's a giant tome I've read called The Invisible Empire, which talks all about drug crime in America from like the late 70s until the 90s. And like what they're talking about, that actually happened, where a cartel paid off someone who basically worked in payroll. And it's like, oh yeah, you want all these people's real names and where their families live and stuff and where we mail their checks? Here you go. And it was for like $50,000. The guy had to pay off gambling debts, essentially. Like that really happened.
Yeah.
I don't know if this movie show just kind of made it up, or they read that same. Well, they couldn't have read that book, so it was published then. But
or just like, just that's kind of breaches that happen. And
yeah, that's how it happens. It's never like some guy coming in on a wire like a ninja. It's always like, hey, their accountant is like a degenerate gambler. Well, let's offer him some money, and we don't need to like break into buildings and have double agents.
But yeah, like when we read various books and it's about like the CIA and FBI and stuff, it's always like, these are the kind of things that will exclude you from being the CIA and FBI if you have some weird financial background.
Yeah, you can be very easily compromised.
And then somehow things are getting pointed towards New York, because like the cartels up there at the time. I mean, they're everywhere, but I guess they're more based in New York. And so they go through some guy. What's his name? It's Gene Simmons, Newton Blade.
Yeah.
Gene Simmons is Newton Blade. He's just some party yacht guy who has connections to drugs or something. Yeah.
He moves money for people.
Yeah. And he said
he made that name up for the show too. I think that was like his input.
He sets up a deal so they can go to New York, and then there's a montage, of course, of them going to New York.
Yeah, weird. New York in the 80s.
Yeah. Trump Tower still there. He could have got featured that for some reason.
Yeah, it was weird to see that. It was almost as sad to see that as it is like when you see the Twin Towers. But for very different reasons.
Yeah. I wish Trump Tower didn't exist and the Twin Towers did exist.
Yeah.
Yeah, then Tubbs and Crockett check in with the New York cops, and then there's just like friction there for not really, I mean, for interesting reasons, not necessarily good logical reasons, but
Yeah.
I mean, I guess if you have somebody coming into your precinct and like basically what's been laid out to them is like, you have to give them the welcome mat and like here, give them all your key codes so they can use all your information. So I mean, that would be
carry guns around and probably shoot people, and you're going to play with mess. And also, that's played by Charles Dutton.
I recognize that guy. It's
Charles Dutton. He's in a lot of things. I'm trying to think of what his most famous role was. What was the big Charles Dutton movies? I don't know. It's not. I didn't list a lot of the big ones there, but you just know that guy because you know his voice.
Yeah.
And how he looks. He projects anger well. He always plays that guy. And he had the line of the first part of this episode when he's talking about how bad New York is. He's like, rape season is in full effect. I'm supposed to babysit you guys. It was some speech like that. And I was like, rape season is... I wrote that down. I was like, this is the line of the show. I've never heard of it referred like to that before.
So the first 4 movies that pop up, most of them, you'd know them, but the thing he's like the, it's kind of like the priest convict in Alien 3.
Yep. I definitely remember him for that. I can't think of what my favorite Charles S. Dutton role is, but I knew the guy immediately.
Well,
I mean, it's very 80s, but...
Yeah, well, here it says known for Alien 3, Gothica, A Time to Kill, and Legion, which I think A Time to Kill is the only one that was...
Legion, yes. I don't know what that is, but I do know that one.
Yeah, so and the Tubbs and Crockett are out trying to make a deal, and then they have Penn Jillette show up. He's just kind of some wheeler and dealer in New York, and he's just like getting eggs and doesn't want to talk to them.
Jimmy Borges. Yeah, he looks like he's about 25-year-old Penn Jillette.
Yeah. Well, it's weird. Yeah. He's kind of
I kept
aged
waiting
well.
for him to eat those eggs and, talking about like, I'm out of that business, now I'm totally libertarian. Taxes are a crime against, because, that's Pendulet's thing now.
Yeah.
But it was like, it would be cool if he did started back then. He's like, I'm a drug dealer because I don't like to pay taxes, because taxes are technically against the law.
Then we go to Club Delirious, which I don't know anything about 80s or 80s New York, so I don't know if this is based on anything.
There's something called Studio 54.
Yeah.
It was very hedonistic, but I think that was the 70s.
70s,
so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it probably extended to whatever decade. It probably still exists somehow.
Sure. Any place you can gather and do cocaine and pay too much for a bottle of Grey Goose. I mean, yeah, go ahead.
We have Pam Grier's back, and I was like, undercover? And then, yeah, so now she's in Vice after probation, so she wasn't arrested for murder.
Who murdered her sister, shooting him in the face. It's like, we're going to put you back under because you handle this well, right? It was fine. It was good to see Pam Grier.
Yeah. They have her
and Foxy Browns and something.
Well, they have her and Tubbs kind of like reconnect, but it's like, wow, this can't really happen. So it just kind of left there. Then we have Paul Calderone is back. That's the actor's name. He's back as a different character.
Yeah.
He was in like that the Home Invasions episode. He's one of those guys. You'll probably remember Paul Calderone as the guy who replaces Samuel L. Jackson's character in Pulp Fiction. So that's what I always remember him. So I looked it up, and he's like plays 3 different characters throughout the series, and they're all 3 they're 3 different characters. So he's in it 3 different times, which happens a lot with actors in this show. So it's like, we like that guy. It's like, nobody's gonna remember that we killed him, and he'll have a different name, so it's fine.
Yeah, he's not like one of the main characters.
We also have it like Luis Guzman made it up to New York from Miami, so he's just following them around, but they don't know them, or maybe they do. I don't know. It's weird.
It's a part of the story where it's like, this isn't. It didn't seem to hang well. I don't know what they're doing.
Well, so they have Luis Guzman like survive the thing, and then they have him kind of escape the where they kill all the DEA agents. He escapes away, so we kind of have this, this dangerous guy in the wind who's essentially kind of not intentionally on the tail of Tubbs and Crockett, but just unintentionally is. So
he knows what they look like.
Yeah. Maybe.
From the DEA.
Because I mean, I don't know. Because like they shine the lights on him, so I don't think he would be able to pick up on Tubbs and Crockett from in the middle of the night with the lights shining in his eyes. So, anyways, in a TV show, if characters exist in the same frame, you essentially assume they know each other, even if they don't. So they'll point, and then in case they want you to know that they don't know each other, they'll point that out. And if they don't, then they assume to be known each other. So that's just how TV works sometimes. Then we have Crockett walking through New York montage with Glenn Fry's "You Belong to the City." Glenn Fry, the guy who wrote Smuggler's Blues, right? And he was the pilot in that episode. So but not bring his character back, but just put some of his songs in the show.
Friend of the show.
Yeah. Crockett flirts with some lady. It's very weird. And then they get out to the taxi.
Eye contact. A lot of, I like you. I like you too.
And then she like dresses him down for not like chasing after her harder or whatever. And then they get this like cab part where they kind of like share a kiss, and there's like this, the way they shoot the scene basically looks like she's about to like go down on him.
Yeah. I do remember. It's like, where's this one going? I don't remember this from the 80s.
But it's like the shot implies that, but it's also like, well, they're going to have sex, but we're not going to show it. And then there's just a flurry of songs. There's like U2, Huey Lewis, or something else in there. They're just throwing songs left and right in this episode. Crockett wakes up in the lady's apartment, and she's some sort of like arts person or some scene thing going on, and there's just people moving stuff. Yeah.
A bunch of snobby jerks in there, and his gun's missing.
Yeah, somebody took Crockett's gun, which he has the Bryn 10 in the. Because I looked it up. I don't think he gets. I think the Bryn 10 company didn't go under till like 86, and I believe they changed his gun over to like some Smith and Wesson after that, but he still has the Bren 10 in this episode. Or maybe it gets stolen now. I don't know. We'll find out. Then we have another montage where Tubbs and Crockett are setting up a deal to try to draw out the Revelia's gang or something. I think that's what it's called. I can't remember.
Yeah.
And then the New York cops like attempt to arrest Tubbs and Crockett for like a moment, but then Crockett pulls some like reverse psychology and they let him go. I didn't really get what was going on there. Like I thought for a moment there was like, oh, are the cops in on it? And so
yeah, that's what I thought it was circling to. That's why Pam Grier was like, it's like, you got to get out of here. You don't know what's going on. And
yeah.
It's like, oh, are the New York Police Department in on this, or at least this group? But then it turns out, no, they're just posturing because these guys are too good looking for Miami or whatever reason, whatever the reason is.
Yeah. And that's pretty much the end of this section of the episode. So
yeah,
yeah, very weird. It's still got cool style and everything like that. This episode, there's a lot going on. I didn't like combine it all together into a cohesive thing. It's just like stuff's happening. Okay, it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, they're just throwing a lot of stuff. They're like trying to make a splash. Like, this is the Miami Vice season 2. It's gonna be different. We're gonna have a lot of action, a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, it definitely had a lot of action going on. Well, if you liked what you heard, and how couldn't you? You can find this podcast at anchor.fn/Verhoeven Effect. At there you can, well, you can't rate our podcast, but wherever you get your podcast, rate our podcast. You can rate whatever you want, but the only thing to listen to is whatever the highest rating is. At that website, you can, we have listener support. You can support this show at a monthly stipend of 99 cents, $4.99, or $9.99. You can find us at Twitter at Verhoeven Effect, Facebook at Verhoeven Effect. We have another podcast, American Greed Factory. You can find us there on various podcast websites, but we also are on YouTube there, where you can both watch that podcast and this podcast live and unedited. We also have t-shirts at blowthecollar.com/Greed Factory. I'm working on the Verhoeven Effect t-shirt. I'll have one up there like within a week or so. So for the Verhoeven Effect podcast, this is Conlon.
And this is Nathan.
Goodbye, America.
It seemed like we just had a lot to cover in those shows.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, especially if it's pilots.
Yeah.